for the 10th Amendment to lease of the Argos Community School Corporation Board at 7:06 p.m. The purpose of this meeting is for the board to hold a lease hearing in connection with the proposed project. If you are interested in speaking at the hearing, please make sure you have signed the sign-in sheet, which should include your name and address. After the presentation, there will be an opportunity for the public to make comments about the lease rental to be paid under the 10th Amendment lease. At the hearing, we will ask that each person limit their comments to 3 minutes and that the topic be limited to the lease rental under consideration. The notice for this hearing was published as legally required. Pursuant to Indiana Code 20-47-3, before a school corporation may enter into a lease with a nonprofit building corporation, the school corporation must conduct a hearing regarding the execution of the proposed lease agreement and whether the rental to be paid to the lessor building corporation under the proposed lease is a fair and reasonable rental for the proposed improvements. We will now hear from the superintendent about the proposed projects related to the lease.
Thank you. The school corporation is funding this project through lease financing, as it is done with other past construction renovation projects. Lease finances are used by school corporations across the state of Indiana in order to borrow for renovation and construction. The building corporation owns the leased premises. The building corporation leases the building back to the school corporation, and the lease rental due from the school corporation will be paid from property taxes and will be for the lease of the building during the term of the lease. The lease rental, as shown as a maximum amount in lease, will be sufficient to pay the principal and interest due to the bondholders.
Thank you. We will now open the public hearing. Remember, if you would like to speak, please sign in on the sheet which is located at the doorway. As I mentioned earlier, we ask that you state your name and address, limit your comments to the proposed rent to be paid under the 10th Amendment to lease, keep any comments to 3 minutes, and avoid being repetitive, if possible. May I have the sign-in sheet now, and I will begin calling the names of those who are interested in speaking. Currently, we have no one signed in to speak tonight, so we will continue with the meeting. Summary of the resolution authorizing execution of 10th Amendment to lease. As required by Indiana Code 20-47-3, after a lease hearing, the school board must approve the 10th Amendment to lease and authorize the school board officers to execute such amendment. This amendment is the agreement whereby the school corporation will levy the required property tax to pay the lease payments throughout the life of the bond issue. The lease payments will be paid to the building corporation and used to pay the bondholders to repay the proposed bonds. Could I have a motion and a second to adopt the resolution authorizing the execution of the 10th Amendment to lease?
So moved.
Seconded.
Thank you. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Next, we have the summary of the resolution assigning bids and contracts. The next resolution is a resolution assigning bids and contracts to the building corporation. At the bond closing, the building corporation will own facilities where some of the renovation work will be completed. The building corporation will also be the issuer of the bonds. As a result, certain contracts may need to be with the building corporation because the building corporation will hold the money to pay the contractors. The school corporation receives the bids and/or contracts and awards the bids and/or contracts under state law, but then retains the right to assign those bids and/or contracts to the building corporation for payment at the discretion of the board. Could I have a motion and second to adopt the resolution assigning the bids and contracts?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Next, we have a summary of the resolution authorizing the first supplement to master continuing disclosure undertaking and issuance of bonds. This resolution satisfies the Securities and Exchange Commission requirement that a school corporation enter into a continuing disclosure undertaking agreement if it issues bonds to public investors. The agreement requires that the school corporation agree to timely provide certain financial information and provide notice of certain material events if and when they occur. Could I have a motion and a second to adopt the resolution authorizing the first supplement to master continuing disclosure undertaking and issuance of bonds?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion carried. I'd like to thank you all who participated. We will now close the hearing. Could I now have a motion and a second to adjourn the meeting at 7:11 PM?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you, everyone. Now,
I'd be speaking normal language again.
yes,
There's a lot of legalese there.
that is true.
Yes.
And now I'd like to move on to the regular board meeting, January 20th. I'd like to call the meeting to order at 7:12 PM. Would you stand for the pledge of allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And now for a moment of silence. Okay, do we have any communication from patrons? I don't see any of the public here today, so I guess not. Thank you very much. And now we have the approval of the minutes of the regular board meeting from December 15th. We have had the opportunity to read those minutes, they've been in our board packet. And could I have a motion to approve the board meeting minutes from December 15th?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Next, we have the approval of personnel. Jerry, you wanna?
Sure. So we have, unfortunately, we have kind of a large list that we need to go through. As we were ending our first semester, we had, I'm gonna jump ahead actually and go to B, that'll explain a lot of A. We had several resignations that came in. Carly McCammon, second grade teacher, has resigned, effective beginning of second semester. Ashley Yeager, our senior high applied skills teacher, has resigned. She's taking that position in another district, and her last day was January 13th. We have Molly Ballinger, a speech language pathologist. She is going to be with us through February 6th. And then the resignation of Kathleen Knoll, our food service clerk and our ECA treasurer. She will be with us through the school year, and part of the summer. So I jump up to A, employment of Kendall Ferguson, second grade teacher. We are recommending that she have a contract be approved tonight to take over the second grade position that was left open by Carly McCammon. Kendall is an Argos graduate, and she has subbed for us before. We have her in there now. Obviously, we had to get somebody up and going, and she's been doing a fantastic job and stepped in seamlessly. It was a nice transition for students and families, and it was a really good fit. So we're lucky to have her, and we're thankful that she was available when we needed her. Chris Willis is going to be a temporary high school applied skills teacher. He is going to be helping out with the resignation of Ashley Yeager. There is in Part D a Schaefer. She is going to be stepping into, the MONH room. And so we have brought in Chris Willis to oversee Laura Schaefer's responsibilities as she's pushing into gen ed classrooms, for those caseloads. Laura will be overseeing, IEPs over both the, MONH and then the one, her caseload that she previously had. She will continue that, and help Chris transition. And then Elizabeth Castle, we are needing another aide in the MONH room, and so we recommend that she be approved tonight as well. Volunteers, we have some basketball volunteers, Don Odell for 5th grade, Tara Trump for 7th and 8th grade, and Corey Bowman for 6th grade girls. And then, as I mentioned, indeed, we asked for that transfer of Laura Schaefer from special ed junior senior high life skills teacher to the MLA. Any questions?
So who will replace Laura?
Chris Willis.
So Chris is taking her, okay.
Yes.
Is Chris licensed?
Chris recently finished all of his education. He has submitted to the state for licensing. He is not licensed in special ed, which is why she will continue to oversee that, but he will be a certified teacher. It's been a nice fit because he finished with, his math degree, and so he's actually gonna be working with some kids in the content areas that they need.
Does he want to stay in special ed or not?
He has spoke of an interest of it. Prior to him going through his schooling to get his teaching certificate, he had worked as a sub as well as with Cardinal Services with that population of students, and it was something he did well at. He has already sought out some information for some further coursework in special ed. I think he's kind of weighing that out right now. So I think it'll be a nice semester for Laura to oversee him, have him get his feet wet and see if that's something he would like to continue with. So that's why we have him on a temporary.
And then what are we gonna do with the speech pathologist?
The speech pathologist, so, Molly, we had brought her on, she was finishing up her clinical hours, and so we had brought her on to do that. She had asked if she could do that within our school system, and, once she completed that, we kept her, we were sharing her services with Triton. We have it posted, hopefully we will get some hits on that. We do have a caseload that could be managed by one speech pathologist, it will just be very heavy. But we wanna open that door to see if we can find any applicants and see what we can gather there. So we do have some options that we could seek out, with, people that place contracts, but it's gonna be more virtual services. And so we need to weigh the benefits versus the cost of that to see what we're actually getting.
But we're required legally to provide the services?
We are required to provide speech and language services, but we are covered with the speech pathologist that we do have. It gives her a heavy caseload at this point in time.
She's gonna be with us till February 6th, you said, right?
Correct.
So we've got a little bit of time.
Not much. Any other questions? Okay, could I have a motion to approve the employment changes as described by Mrs. Johnson?
So moved.
Thank you, second.
Second?
Thank you. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Next, we have a project update from Greg.
Well, I'll get to the slide in a minute. This is about kind of master planning of the site during constructions, kind of our initial thoughts about how we might arrange that as well, multiple contractors on site. But in your package, you probably have this very, very fine detailed schedule. And I've got the summary in my head and also written down here so I can summarize this for you. What we've done is take the current projects that we're undertaking in the next year and a half, and try to put a timeline for not only for receipt of bids, but also for the advertisements to bid, pre-bid meetings, and the construction timeline. So the red bar you see on there is actually the construction timeline. The blue is actually our construction document completion, and we're kind of in the middle of it on 3 different projects. Starting with the current project we have going on, which is lighting replacement. We just completed the punch list, ran that a couple weeks ago, and the contractors come back and completed their portion of it. We did a spot check tonight. There's 1 or 2 items that we're gonna ask about. But essentially, they're completed with the work up to this point. I think you have a pay application on your docket. That will take them down to about $30,000 worth of retainage. So that's more than enough to cover anything else we might perhaps see. I don't anticipate anything else, but I think they've completed their work on time, as they said they would. Next 2 projects, the tunnel piping replacement and masonry repairs. Those are 2 of the most probably critical track projects we need to take on. We're actually gonna bid those sort of on the same time frame. So we'll have an early March bid for that work. And so the thought was that we could actually, those are distinctly different projects, so we can kind of keep them on the same track. And bidders should not confuse one with the other. So we're actually gonna try to run that on a time frame where we have pre-bid meetings, kind of like a morning and an afternoon pre-bid meeting, and then we'll receive bids, we'll have a morning and afternoon bid receipt, that kind of thing. So we'd like to get those underway as soon as we possibly can. Masonry repairs can actually start probably prior to school leaving for the year, something that can start maybe March or April, probably more likely April. The tunnel piping pretty much has to be done in the summers, but we want to give them plenty of time to get materials on site, available, so they can start right in as soon as school lets out for the year. So that's kind of the track we have. Some of these dates may change slightly, but ahead of the first advertisements on each one, I'll be able to carry the written advertisement for the project bid. Then we get that advertised. All of these dates for advertisements are like the Friday of the week, so if we get it published prior to that Friday, we're good. Anytime that week will work for. The next bid is probably the roofing and copings. We kind of combined those 2 projects. At one time, they were kind of separate pieces of the work. Really only makes sense to combine that into one single project. And that's gonna be bid a little bit later in February. The bids will be due 10th of March, so about a week later than the other work. But again, it's gonna be work that, a portion of it could possibly start before school's out, but most likely it'll start this summer sometime. But regardless, with those 3 projects, plus the elementary patio replacement, which we'll bid a little bit later, probably by April, did that, and then receive bids on that. All of those projects will be occurring sort of simultaneously. So the question is, who starts where? How do we coordinate between the different contractors? And that's really gonna be part of our job, is to put in the documents a means for each of the contractors to know what the other contractor's doing, and to at least take the first shot at setting up where they're gonna start, where they're gonna complete, and who's doing what in different locations. So we don't want the mason, for instance, working above the roof doing masonry repairs at the same time the roofer's trying to come in, kind of common sense things like that. We also need to make sure that the grounds surrounding it, we've assigned specific locations where they can store materials and be able to access the building. So that's the purpose of this map put together. Looking very generally at where the roofing work may start, that is for the North Elementary wing, and the wing that's immediately outside here for the elementary gym. Is looking at that being kind of project 1 or phase 1 for the roofing work. The area A, you see identified there, would be an area for staging for the roofing work, so that you have easy access. We're not doing anything with the elementary patio yet, so that's gonna come later. If you look on the opposite side, while that work's going on there, at the middle school gym, the upper roof area, we would anticipate having the masons do their repair work on that area while the roofing work's going on the sort of the east side of the building. And then down at the bottom near the auditorium, the upper roof portion of that masonry, including the, not the lower wall, serpentine wall, but the other parts of the roof. Getting that masonry work completed while this other roofing work is continuing on. So in general, that's kind of what we're thinking. We have separated around the building, not really overlapping their work at any point in time. So the fine details of that, which contractor is responsible for providing to us, is to take our ideas and then put it to a distinct timeline. So by the time we get under contract, we'll know what their timeline is that fits within this ballpark. They may be more aggressive, they may want to take on more areas, if it's acceptable, okay, but we'll have to coordinate between the different contractors. So our basic intent is to take these kind of diagrams, maybe a little more refined than this, but place them on the documents for both the masonry as well as the roofing project and the tunnel piping project. So each contractor is the bidding will know precisely what the intent is for multiple contractors on site. Next slide. This is primarily summer work. As you see, number 2 there is the elementary patio that will be being installed at that point in time. And the B is the location where they would stockpile materials, equipment, that sort of thing, kind of out the way the other work. If you go around the building, around the cafeteria, middle school gym, all that upper masonry work should be completed. And area 2 of the roofing work will be taking place at that time. And then you see a B over in the high school parking lot, that's actually for like the tunnel piping. So that would be the most probably convenient door for them to enter and leave. I can't think of another location. If we do need to come up with another location, we can. I was thinking they might have quite a few materials stockpiled out there. They may want to pick up area of the asphalt, fence it off, keep it secure in that location. Then if you look down, the other B location is kind of a continuation of masonry work. That's that lower portion of the wall, serpentine wall wraps around the lower part of the lobby, for the auditorium lobby. And there's quite a bit of work to do with the block. They're going to be cutting out mortar, replacing mortar, fixing some of the expansion joints that weren't installed originally. We're going to put those in. So that work is part of that lower level taking place. At the same time, roofing work's going on, your elementary pad is being installed, so there's a lot of activity around the building. I don't think they're gonna encumber each other. We kind of keep these distinct staging areas kind of separate. Then coming in the next slide, that takes us up to like August 1st. And for this last phase, I think we may be looking at something starting into the fall. I'm not confident that the roofers will be able to accomplish all this roofing work at the same time without overlapping some of the other contractors' scope of work. So we're thinking for the fall, there may be some small roofing work going on. Lower roof around the auditorium in the front, near the entrance, obviously. They're going to cordon off that whole area and that sidewalk for a period of time, but it's a pretty small scope of work. There's not a lot of major changes there, so really don't anticipate that taking terribly long.
Okay.
The area that's, area 3, that's on the backside of the high school gym, that's an area that also, I think there's an arrow actually pointing to one spot. That's kind of that area that's been troublesome for you around the backside of the auditorium, the gym. We've got leaks multiple times. That's that really low area of the roof that they put equipment in, so we're gonna deal with all that at the same time. So that's really an area where we think that they may use actual staging area, maybe it's closer to the, trying to keep them out of the parking lot as much as possible, but they're gonna have to have access to the roof. It's fairly easy, and that area C seems like the most logical place they can access both areas at once. So kind of, although the exact timeframe, things may change, the scope of work for each step may change. At least this is I believe it's a workable solution for three different contractors to be on site at the same time. We gotta get their buy-in and we gotta coordinate that between them, but they start out knowing all the same information, so hopefully they'll plan their work accordingly, so.
Do you anticipate we may have, the same contractor for some of this, or?
Well, that would be interesting. There's a possibility. I don't know. I thought there was distinctly separate masonry contractor versus a roofer, but you may have a general contractor that may go.
If a general bids it, it might happen,
Yeah.
if not, it won't happen.
Yeah, I just didn't know if
So-
you had a feeling.
Somebody like,
They should
somebody
start
like
with their pencil,
Yoder,
maybe.
somebody like our Yoder would come in and they did a parking lot.
Sure.
They also did cafeteria. didn't
That's
they?
what made me start wondering, yeah.
So there's always that possibility.
Okay.
And some of the contractors that bid specific work may have general contracting license and take on more than just that, so I wouldn't be opposed to that. That would be all right for me.
Yeah.
Cause I think, you know.
We can maybe stage it.
That would be
One-
helpful
one
with
spot.
coordination.
Yes, it would.
Absolutely.
My concern with 3 there, with that section that we would have to close off that piece of the sidewalk, with not being able to start that until after the start of school, is our dismissal, drop off and dismissal area. We utilize that section quite a bit to get our kids safely to buses, cause we park along there, so, we just have to probably look at that and figure out how far out we have to go. That's the only thing I see right now that's kind of raising, like, that could get a little tricky. So I don't, yeah, I
A couple
don't,
of things we always put in the specs, is the school arrival and dismissal time, times they can work, can't work. When
Okay.
they're making noise, they can't work over an occupied classroom area, but it may be one of those things where they may be able to do it, but they can't do it during dismissal time or arrival time.
okay, so it's not necessarily something we have to close off for the duration of this construction.
Right.
Like, we have some times in between, it could be open.
I think the majority of the closure would be probably building side of that sidewalk. Still allow the sidewalk to be utilized, put a fence up there, that
Okay.
prevents, in case they drop, a piece of coping down or
Sure.
something that's out of the way. So we can specify those things
Okay,
and
that's better.
define that plan of it. The other possibility is that the roofers may be able to, if the masonry work gets done quicker, maybe the roofers can get that piece in before the start of school, but I wanna give them as much leeway as possible,
Sure.
given weather conditions, those kind of things tend to throw off roofers, hopefully.
Yep. Understand, yeah, that's the only piece that I thought, we may have to kind of work around, but if we don't have to close that off from whatever, July to September, like, we have access through periods of time of the day, that shouldn't be an issue.
But I would anticipate that area C, for instance, if they have that as a staging area, that may have lifts or something bringing materials on the road that they're gonna transport over and, work on the road as they get to it. Those aren't really large areas, so I wouldn't anticipate a lot of stockpile.
Okay.
If they need to stockpile stuff, they'll have to move their stockpile somewhere else.
Sure.
All of that is within your control during construction meetings and prior to the start of construction, they have to have all of that worked out with you and set it up according to your timeframe, how you wanna use the site, any security concerns, all those kind of things we bring up at that time before we can start on site, so.
We could possibly, if you, can you go up to the one previous? We could possibly look at, the high school parking lot there, where you have it kind of sectioned off, they all say B, but in the parking lot where you thought that might be a staging area for the tunnels, the piping. If we needed to, we could look at behind the gate. We just have to figure out how much how much we're stockpiling and that we still have a entry exit way for trash trucks and delivery trucks and all of that, so, that might be something we could look at too if we need to keep things secure, because we do have a gate that would shut. So,
You know,
as we get into it, that's just an option.
we're showing the ideal of positioning those, they have to travel a little bit, get to it,
Yep.
you know, a couple hundred yards or something, it's not. That kind of summarizes what I have. Like I said, we're about 60% of the way through construction documents on roofing. We're farther ahead. We're like 70-75%, about 60-65% on the masonry work. We're actually defining, and I've got very small copies of that. I can send to you if you want. Masonry work, what we really are doing is identifying all the sealant joints that need to be cut out, replace, the areas of brick that we're gonna be basically cutting out and replacing portions of brick. We do have a brick company that has submitted information on a brick that's a very close match. It's not an exact match. It's a little bit darker red than what we have out there currently, but we'll have to see how we can manipulate that, what else is available. We do know that that brick is available very quickly. The other thing on the roofing, it was probably 3 weeks ago or so, they came up and did cores on the roof. So we did 14 different cores of the roofs. We know precisely what the makeup of that roof is down to the roof deck. So what we've done in the past is take that information and show the contractors for each area exactly what the makeup of the existing roof is, and then tell them how much of that we come on, you have to tear off. So we may not be tearing off the entire thing down on the deck. That's been the basis of our estimates so far. If we can reduce that, great. Then we only have to deal with maybe some surprise wet areas that might be there, but that will be covered by an allowance. It's built into the project cost, so that we have a pool of money in case we run into other bad areas to where if we can replace that without having to incur an add change order to it, be more or less using the money that's already built into it. So, what am I forgetting, Kevin? Anything?
Comprehensive.
Okay, well, that's a snapshot of where we are.
All right,
So,
thank you.
let me know if there's any issues with any of the dates, make any adjustments.
Thank you very much, Barry.
More questions? One up here. Thank you.
All right, we'll move on to the next agenda item, which is the approval of the Michiana contracts and pay application number 2 for the lighting replacement for a total of $93,600. Once again, that is in our board packet. We've had the opportunity to look at that. Could I have a motion to approve the Michiana contract and pay application number 2 for the lighting replacements for $93,600?
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Next, we have the approval of 2 of the LWC invoices, number 19289 and 19299, for $5,695 and $2,595 and a penny respectively. Once again, those have been in our in our packet. We don't wanna miss the penny. That's
No.
important, that's important. Anyway, those have been in our packets for our review. Does anyone have any questions in regards to those 2 invoices? No? Okay, can I have a motion to approve the 2 LWC invoices as described?
So moved.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Motion carried. Next, we have the approval of claims. Kelly?
I'm asking for approval for 8 pages of accounts payable claims in the amount of $232,924.75, and 4 pages of payroll claims totaling $338,058.99 for a total claim docket of $570,983.74.
Okay, and the claims docket, once again, has been in our packet for our review. Does anybody have any questions about any of the claims? No? Okay. Can I have a motion to approve the claims as described? Total of $570,983.74.
So moved.
Second. Thank you. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you very much. Next we have the financial reports.
Okay. So when we met last week, we did our monthly claims, and I told you we would redo those this week. And so we were gonna look at our budget order that we received for the year. So our first slide is going over our education fund revenue report. This gives you just a snapshot of the last 11 years actually, and where we've been and where we've gone. And so in this 2026 budget, we have asked for 6.4 million to work our budget off of, and that is what we have been awarded. As always, we don't want to exhaust all of those funds. This is what we're projecting. As we've talked about though in the last few meetings, as we closed out 25, we were able to open POs and encumber some of those expenses to protect the future budget of this year, and we would still plan to do so in 26. So that is what we have to work off of. It's a great budget to work off of. We certainly don't want to max it out.
It's certainly really good news that they approved our request.
They know
Correct.
we have reserves, so if you max it out, it would pull some from our reserves,
Okay.
which we don't tend to do. They saw we had the money, so they approved it. But what we're actually getting from the state is just about 250,000 more than what we had last year,
Okay.
which covers our negotiations.
Yeah.
So it is really good news. It gives you flexibility, but our goal wouldn't be to max it. And Carrie certainly agrees.
So, and we just reviewed that about
We
an
did
hour
review
ago
that.
again.
We worked on that.
And then the same with the operations on the next slide. We've been approved for 2.1. And again, we certainly don't wanna max that out. We also know that this is the tightest part of our budget as we go through the year, that this should give us the capacity to do what we need to do. And again, having that same goal, we always want to be able to open POs at the end of the year and pay it forward to protect the following, or the next year's budget. So, we have previously done, the resolution to continue to transfer the funds back and forth, and that's about, we figured that out today, was that right at 10%, that we're
600,000, right
So
at
we
10%.
have room if we need to.
Well, we can do more if we had to.
Cushion that.
yes.
Hopefully not.
And I'm happy to, at some time, if you wanna go through this budget report with me. I'm learning all of the ins and outs of that as well, but we are in good shape, and that is guiding me through this next steps as we start a new budget year. So I'm excited to get started on a.
It's
on a
good
new
news.
one.
Thank you for the help.
Yes.
And the guidance.
Yes, thank you. And then our next slides are the cash reserves. This is just showing you, and Jenny, this gets to the point you just made. Those are still very healthy, and that is why we are being approved for what we are asking for. And to Ned's point, if we would max out that budget, it's really just gonna be at our cash reserves, which is what we do not want to do. So, our goal is always to maintain, and if you go to the next slide on the rainy day fund, that is what we've been able to do. You can see that that has been very steady for the last 3-4 years, and we feel like that's the right mark to be at. We don't necessarily want to continue to grow that much more, but we don't want that to deplete either. That gets us roughly 2 to 3 months in an emergency situation should we need it. And then the last slide, actually I think I have 2 more. evaluations that we received from DLGF shows that we have a slight dip or a decrease in the assessed valuations, so roughly $500,000. And so that is gonna impact then our very last slide where you see our tax rate. We have not increased our tax levy, but there will be obviously impacts, and this is directly tied to some Bill 1 changes, that they are giving some exemptions.
It's definitely Senate Bill 1 out of our hands.
So I felt like it was important to put both of those in this packet, just so that we need to keep our eyes on that and be aware of where we are right now, and as we look to the future, where that's gonna go.
If you go back to the net assessed valuation, I mean, this happened across the country, you can see those valuations
happening.
going up, and I'm a little worried when the correction comes. We've seen a tiny dip, what happens when we start?
The state average was about 3.5%, well, ours was very minimal. Other districts been hit sort of hard with that, but you're right, it's trending that way, Jimmy. And it's to be watched. But it's sort of out of our hands, but we still need to watch it
Well, right,
and adjust to it if we have to.
it's not a 26 issue, but it might be a 27 or
future,
28 issue.
27 is where they.
And as Senate Bill 1 gets fully implemented, it becomes more of an issue. They're exempting some people from, and that's why the assessed value falls, they're exempting it. And really out of our hands, we really don't have less assessed value, but some of it isn't counting anymore. Like they're doing some things with seniors and different groups and that, and so different people are gonna end up paying, but we're not asking for more money. Yeah, it is gonna impact, right?
I do feel like we have been in a good position for this compared to other areas in Indiana that have been hit very hard, and it's because of the, it's how those valuations are coming out on those households. This might be one time we get lucky for how big we are and the households that we do have, in our community. We just aren't seeing the kind of hit that others are, so, yeah, but definitely something we have to keep our eyes on and pay attention to.
Okay, any other questions from anyone?
Lord, could I inject one thing? I wanna thank Kelly and Carrie. Their first round with this, they've done an excellent job. I'm proud of it. So thanks, gals. You got it.
Thanks to you as well.
Yes.
For
He
being the
always-
support
He's
system.
never not answered a question.
I know,
Is that what-
or a phone call, or a
That's
text,
right.
or an email.
I wondered.
It's good.
Do you roll your eyes when you see?
A text
You're
comes
like,
through,
"Oh,
it's like,
what's on it?"
I roll my eyes if you weren't wording, but you are. And you're doing a good job with it.
It's one of the K girls.
One of those.
It's been a good team, so, yes.
Thank you, all of you.
This is a very good report for the school district, so we're happy with it.
Thank you for all the effort and work and education and learning.
That's what we're about.
Absolutely. All right, next we have the 2025 accomplishments.
So, following our group, this is what we had in the January meeting of last year, and so it was kind of fun to actually sit down and think back to, obviously, I'm not taking accolades for all of this. We work, as a team at this school, and actually, that's one of my themes that I talk about with staff all the time. This is not a solo job. It's never a solo job, and all of these things have been done, as teamwork, and that might be a makeup of different teams, but it takes all of us to get all of this done. So I just wanna go on record for saying that right now. But we were able to reach a new 2-year contract this year, which was also another good learning experience. I thought that went very well, and we've discussed that in previous meetings, and that resulted in salary increases for teachers both years. We were able to give wage increases for classified staff this past July 1, I believe, that those took place. We have been working through our construction project with LWC, and those have all been running smoothly. Jumped in on the tail end of fencing and lighting. And so that was a good way to get my feet wet before we kick off all these new projects. And so they also answer their phones when I have any questions, and I appreciate that. We are maintaining our student enrollment, which is always a positive.
Huge.
We have seen some slight increases there, and we don't anticipate that really changing. So, that is right where we wanna be, steady, steady, steady. Last year, we ran the Island checkpoint pilot. This year it is mandatory, and so this is where my wheelhouse was last year. And so that is an accomplishment, because we asked teachers to go above and beyond and students to jump in on a whole nother set of assessments that we did not have to do. But we felt it was important to get our feet wet with that new system and understand what those assessments were gonna look like, so we were ready this year when we were gonna be held accountable for them. I read, we were continue to maintain a high passing rate for second and third grade students. And the purchase of the American Legion building, that is going to become our Argos Educational Center. So, lots of accomplishments, I'm sure there were many more. Those are the ones I highlighted when I was kind of making this list. And then our focus area for 2026 is we are, as you know, we've been working hard to reach a workable SRO agreement, and we are in really good talks with the town. That has come a long way. We just need to get it finalized on paper and move forward with that. I'm looking forward to ending that process. Finalizing our bonds and starting our next phase of projects, which we just had a great presentation on. Looking forward to all those next steps as well, and putting all this hard work into actual fruition and seeing the results from that. We will continue to develop our personnel. That's key to school. I don't like it when we see these resignations come through, but I also understand that people take opportunities that they need to take in their lives. I'm thankful that we always have talent that is waiting and really wanting to be part of Argos. Not everybody is able to fill spots like that, and so I'm really glad that we can do that. That speaks a lot, I think, to our school corporation. They want to be here, and so we need to continue to pour into them to make them the best that they can be for our students and families. We will continue to look at curriculum. There's always changes going on with curriculum, and we need to stay on top of that. I'm gonna give a shout out to Tori Tolliver, she stepped into our title position this year, and she really loves curriculum, and she's really on that. I sat down and talked with her at length right before we went on our winter break, and she's doing a fantastic job, and she's really working out different angles of curriculum that we need. I know she's collaborating with junior high and high school as well, and so I'm feeling good about where we're pushing our curriculum to make sure we are doing the best we can and making sure we're keeping up with any changes that the state is giving us. And that kind of loops into the next two. We have a lot of high school graduation requirements that have changed in the last year or so. We are still making sure that we are on top of those and providing those pathways that our students are now taking, making sure we're opening new pathways if needed and giving them many opportunities here at Argos. Work-based learning is also a new piece of that we are learning about, and how we are gonna navigate that with our students. It's an exciting opportunity, but it always brings challenges with workload and within the corporation of how we manage that. As I just talked about Island checkpoints, we are now running this as a mandatory state testing platform, and so this will be our first year that we are going through that with accountability measures tied to it. So far, I think it's gone really well, and I think it was wise to get into the pilot last year, because we're comfortable and we know what we're doing versus just stepping in and not understanding it from the get-go. I was talking to a couple teachers today about iRead, how they're feeling about it. They feel like they've seen some really good student growth in some of the student populations that they've been working with. And of course, we know that's coming up quick in March, and so we're looking to maintain that passing rate. Continuing our intervention and remediation is what we're seeing right now, so we know how to help them and fill in those gaps. And then last, our exciting building that we are going to start referring to as the Argos Educational Center. We are working through getting our building upgrades completed and discussing what programs we're gonna host in that. And I did just get word today that carpet should be in mid to late February, and once it arrives, they plan on getting into install. So that's our next step. So that's exciting. So that was kind of a lot of things, but there's a lot to be proud of at our school corporation, and I wanna make sure we highlight those.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
Anyone have any questions? Thank you for the update, appreciate that very much. Next, we have some closing comments. Do you want to go through these, or?
Yes, we can, or if you wanna read them, you're more than welcome. So, yep, we had a couple thank you notes that came in, and we just always like to highlight those. Chris Fishburne, her father had passed away. We sent a peace lily, and she just wanted to thank you for peace lily and remembrance of my dad, and I think it's important that we share that with everybody, and you know, those steps that we take to support our school family as well. And then we had a nice letter come in from the Shepherd's Food Pantry at Argos United Methodist Church. I won't read the form letter, I'll read the personal note that they wrote. Argos Community Schools is a wonderful supporter of our own local food pantry, especially through the various food drives that the students provide. We so appreciate all the hard work involved in these by staff and students. And on a more personal note, we really are thankful when the students deliver and carry in the donations. So, we have an amazing food drive that FFA heads up every year. And they have, in the past few years, made that school-wide, and it's kind of a fun little competition between the grades. But really, obviously, the goal is to see how much we can supply and help out our food pantry, and then the high school kids do deliver, and so that's very nice. There are several other opportunities that we donate to them throughout the year, and that's what the rest of the letter is stating, but I wanted to make sure we acknowledged that as well. And then I have one acknowledgement. It is School Board Appreciation Month, and so I just wanted to give you all a shout out. We reorganized last week and got all of that business out of the way, but I just wanted to thank you for all your hard work. It's such a well-paying job, I know. And you guys have a lot of meetings and you do a lot of work, and you also answer your phones and text me when I need it. So, I just can't thank you enough for dedicating your time and service to Argos schools. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Okay, do we have any other closing comments? No?
I'll just say that you know things are working pretty well when you do not get any phone calls from the public. They never seem to call when everything's going well.
Well, they don't wanna congratulate us.
Right.
That's okay, we'll take it.
Absolutely. All right, with that, could I have a motion to adjourn the meeting at 7:58 PM?
So moved.
Second. Thank you. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion, opposed? Motion carried. Thank you very much. Meeting adjourned.
And Kevin brought in cupcakes that I understand his wife makes, so the best cupcakes Rosen has.
According to Greg, I'm staying out of that.
Yes, that was, those were Greg's words,
I give one,
but
get out of here.
please help yourself or take a treat.
Take one home.
Yes, that's it.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
I give him a
Standing. To the extent.
I was at that.
Good to see you guys
Looks like we
again.
all
Good to
were.
see you too. Getting close to mine.
I actually was focused on it too.
Okay. You gotta pick it up.
Kelly?
I get it.
Sterling calling you.
Oh, for gold.